They just came on now. Let's try get closer to the stage. Sorry. Excuse me. Hi there. Thanks a million.
Do you want to go on my shoulders?
What?
Sorry. Do you want to go on my shoulders?
Yeah, that'd be unreal. Thanks. Wow.
3 celebrates connections made by music this summer. Find out more at 3.ie/music.
Blog Talk Radio.
What you are about to hear are the views of Travis Pope and the Oklahoma Tomcat and is not supported by the government. Agreeing with the hosts of this show could cause you to be targeted by the government and government agencies. You have been warned.
Good morning, Oklahoma. It is great to be in the greatest state in the union. And if my co-host was on, he would be agreeing with me right now. I am the Oklahoma Tomcat coming to you live in Oklahoma. And so far, I am the only one here. Travis, he's up in Wyoming, so I'm not sure if it's that he doesn't have signal or what, why he's missing in action. And our producer, Edith, she's unable to be on the show on Monday evenings. For those of you that has not been following along, we are doing the show Monday evenings instead of Sunday mornings. We used to do it at Sunday mornings, but Travis and I's schedule has changed, and therefore we're experimenting with Monday evenings. The Monday evenings is trying to see if we can do the show live and still have guests on our show, being that there's a better chance we will be sitting Monday evenings. We're home every weekend now, so that's why we can't do it Sundays. I don't. If you guys noticed, I'm never on the show whenever I'm on at home, because for me, family does come first. So we're trying this out. Being that it's a holiday, both Travis and I are sitting on Monday today because our customers celebrate Labor Day, even though neither one of us celebrate Labor Day. I'm sorry, Labor Day is a communist holiday. It just is. So I don't celebrate it. But it is nice to have a 3-day weekend. And it's good to have a show, have it today. And that we're both sitting today, because we do have a guest that will be on the show here at 18:30 Central Time. We're going to have Chris Powell on our show. Chris Powell's running for governor of Oklahoma, and he won the runoff against Rex Lawhorn. So we're going to have him on the show. We're going to talk a little bit about the governor's race, the fighting and bickering that is going on between the Republicans and Democrats. And we will also see what he can say to convince people to vote for him, and let people know that voting libertarian is not a wasted vote, which I see a lot on, and which that irritates me, that people say that the libertarian voting libertarian is a wasted vote, because I always say that a wasted vote is when you vote against your principles. And if you're going around complaining about, the Republicans and Democrats, what they're doing and all this stuff, and you're still voting for them, then your vote is a wasted vote. You're voting against your principles. I can't understand why people would do such a thing. But people do, and what's real bad is I've heard for a long time here in Oklahoma, people saying that there needs to be a third party. You know what? There is. There is now. It used to be in Oklahoma you had to vote Republican, Democrat, or Independent. But because those were the only parties that were recognized. But now the Libertarian Party is recognized, and the Libertarian Party is the third largest political party in the United States. And the Libertarian Party is recognized in every state now. So, I don't know why people are still stuck on the Republican and Democrats, seeing the history of both parties. So, and I'm in Oklahoma, and this is something we're going to talk about also with Chris Powell. Oklahoma doesn't have a very good rating, when it comes to freedom. Being the freest state. In fact, in fact, Florida is the freest state. And I just could not understand that whole that Oklahoma is not considered the freest state. And there's no reason for it, because as far as the people in Oklahoma go, it seems like we would be, the way people talk and stuff like that, And what's so shockingly, Texas is even worse than Oklahoma. Which really shocked me because, they always proud themselves of, being for liberty and all that stuff. But they're not. But this here was done by the Cato Institute. And I'm bringing it up right now because it just, I just remembered it. I was going to bring it up on Friday's show, but we couldn't get on Friday. But here is the 50 states, freedom in the 50 states. This here was done by the Cato Institute. Let me bring up the list. I know I can bring up the list. But Florida was rated number 1. I know I saw the list. All right, yeah. There we go, list view. Let's do list view. Here we go. All right. The freedom in the 50 states. Florida, number 1, and has been number 1 for quite a while. They didn't move any. New Hampshire. And it really does shock me that any of the states in the Northeast would be on the top of the list. Indiana, which they moved up 1. They moved up 1. Colorado, they dropped 1. So they were number 3. Now they're number 4. Number 5 is Nevada. They stayed the same. Number 6 is North Dakota. They jumped up 12 spots. So they did real good. Tennessee, they moved up one spot, which that's good. They were number 8. Now they're number 7. South Dakota, they moved up one spot from 9 to 8. And Arizona took a 3, went down 3. They're number 9 now. And Kansas dropped 3 spots down to number 10. So those are your top 10 if you're to move to any of those, if you want to move to a state that has the most freedom. Out of those, I'd probably move to New Hampshire. The Northeast, the Northeast is beautiful. It really is. I love the Northeast. As far as the worst states, these are states you do not want to go to and you want to move out quick. Of course, the one that's been doing so terrible for the last 12 years is New York. They're at the bottom of the list. And New Yorkers, I mean, it is a shame that New York is doing so bad because I'm from New York originally. I was born and raised in New York, upstate New York. And New York is beautiful. I mean, if you guys heard my interview with Larry Sharp, who's running for governor up in New York, you know, I've explained that New York is so beautiful, and I loved growing up there. I grew up in the Catskill Mountains, beautiful area, lots of trees, colorful mountains, especially in the fall. Streams. I remember going to Beaver Kill to go swimming. Our family would go swimming there quite often throughout the summer. You know, very, very beautiful. The water was extremely cold, but it was nice. We loved it up there. I love the winters. I mean, we got the snow, the kids playing. I mean, we made snowmen. We built snow forts. It's really, really nice. The weather is very comfortable, you know, in the summertime. It's not real hot like it is in Oklahoma. So it's a shame that New York, I mean, their gun laws, their all the regulations you have, even in your own home, on your own property, if you can even own property up in New York, it's so expensive. And that was one of the big things that got me to move to Oklahoma it's just so expensive up there. But yeah, they remain the lead at number 50 as the worst when it comes to freedom. Hawaii is 49, and that's really a shocker because Hawaii, I mean, you think of Hawaii, an island, as, you know, a place for vacation and everything, you know, 49. California is 48. And that's really no shocker. And it's a shame that California is like that, too. I mean, California was the place, you know, that everybody dreamed of going to, you know. They're real nice because of the fact that you got the North California, which is cool and, you know, get snow and all that stuff. And then you got the Southern if you don't want the snow. One state has all the seasons, you know, all the different climates. New Jersey is 47. And all those New York, Hawaii, California, New Jersey has not changed. Vermont dropped 2, so they're doing worse. I guess they're trying to compete with New Jersey, California, Hawaii, New York to take the lead as far as the least amount of freedom. Maryland is 45. They moved up, so I guess they're trying to improve themselves. Oregon dropped 2. Another place, very beautiful in Oregon. They're rated 44. Delaware is 43, which they remain the same. Rhode Island has dropped 6 spaces to 42. New Mexico, 41, state where I don't want to go to. My wife used to live there, and same with my stepson. They both used to live in New Mexico. Good thing they left. And Mississippi makes number 40. As there's your, and they dropped 5. They improved by 5 points, so that's cool. So that's your worst 10 states you don't want to go to and you want to leave if you're there. Oklahoma is sadly, where was Oklahoma? Ohio's 45. I know people in Ohio. They've improved 8 places. I know, where was Oklahoma? Oh, there it is, 19. Which Oklahoma dropped 6 places. That is not good. That's under a Republican. Texas is 21. They've improved 2 places, so they did a little bit better. They were at 23. Now they're at 21. So they're trying to improve. But that's one of the things we're going to bring up with Chris Powell when he gets on the air. To find out, what's his plans on that. We'll go over why Oklahoma is doing so poorly. Under a Republican, I mean, what's up, Republicans? You guys are supposed to be about freedom, right? So you say. But apparently, you guys are causing Oklahoma to lose more freedom. And my solution, since Oklahoma didn't do good for freedom under the Democrat, and now they're not doing good. They're doing worse under Mary Fallin. Why not give a libertarian a try? Why not? Why not? And one of the things that I saw on Facebook that somebody stated was that they don't want to risk having the Democrat win. They claim that they're libertarian. And they don't want, but they're not going to vote libertarian. They're going to go against their principles and vote Republican because they don't want to risk the Democrat winning. And I hear this time and time again. I hear this so much, both in the federal elections and state elections. People claiming that they don't like either party, but they're going to vote for one of them because they don't want to risk the other one. This is why we are where we are. This is exactly why we are where we are. It's because of the fact that people are voting candidate. They're voting against the candidate they don't like. Kind of like going with the whole thing on the, why we will go to war with people we don't like. It's that whole thing with, the enemy of our enemy is our friend type thing. And so you're siding with, I hear the phrase, they're voting for the best of two evils. So they're siding with the evil one because they don't want the other evil one to win. And my answer to that is, if you're voting for the best of two evils, you're still voting for evil. And especially at these local elections, the libertarian can win, guys. They can. We need people to get out of this mindset that, oh, well, they're not going to win, so I'll vote for this other guy. You get so many people saying that. Well, of course they're not going to win. It's because you are not voting for them. Give it a try. I mean, what? I mean, the method you're using is not working. And you keep on doing the same thing over and over again. The same exact thing over and over and over again. And it's just really, really mind-blowing that you guys keep on doing this. But we'll get Chris Powell on, and we will talk about that and see what his plans are, how he feels about, this rating that Oklahoma got. Also, I mean, some of the things that's mentioned in here, it gives us credit for our taxes, which, but the problem is, one of the problems we are having is the fact that so many people are working for the government. In Oklahoma. Also, one of the big things they're criticizing is the fact our mass incarceration. We do throw a lot of people in jail. And that is a very sad thing that happens, that people get locked up for things that are so petty. I mean, the person is not harming anyone. They're not a threat to anyone. And yet we throw them in jail, which ruins their life. I mean, over what? Because they're harming themselves? That is totally crazy, and we should not be doing that. The other thing they're criticizing on Oklahoma as far as freedom goes is the civil asset forfeiture. In which both of these Chris Powell has talked about in the show before. But we'll let him talk about some more. Civil asset forfeiture, that is theft. It is theft that we're doing that. Imagine this, people. Someone is rewarded for locking you up. That's pretty much what civil asset forfeiture is. It's a way to try to turn as many people into criminals as possible. You still get a life sentence for a single cannabis offense. There is a 2-year mandatory minimum sentence for even small-scale cultivation. Who are you harming? And for a state without a government liquor monopoly, Oklahoma does poorly on alcohol freedom, which we're changing that up. So, yeah, we've got a long ways to go in Oklahoma. And if you guys have noticed, I've been trying to really push for libertarians to get elected. Both Travis and I are doing that, trying to get the word out. Let's talk a little bit about one of the freedoms we do have in Oklahoma, we've got pretty lenient gun laws, and we do also allow you to carry a taser without any type of permit or anything. In fact, I have one on me right now. Both Travis and I both carry a taser. A taser is real good, especially for truck drivers. Also, if you're someone who doesn't feel comfortable about taking a person's life, even if it's you're trying to defend yourself, taser is a great alternative to a firearm. But also, a taser is good even if you do carry a firearm, because of the fact that taking a person's life should not be your, first move. If you're able to just immobilize someone, then that should be your, you should always use the least lethal method to defend yourself as possible. So, both Travis and I, and for truck drivers, it's great because of the fact that we can carry a taser in most of the states without any type of permit or any type of law. Most states do not have a law regarding a taser. Travis and I both purchased our taser at truckers-defense.com. That's truckers-defense.com. If you go there, you're going to see the tasers, and they're at a very, very good price. Also, they also had stun guns and other things. Now, there is a difference between stun gun and taser, and I highly recommend, that you check out both of them and see which one is best for you. A taser is like a gun. It shoots darts up to 15 feet, which that is great because, I don't want the person getting close to me, and that's why I highly recommend the taser. It shoots the darts 15 feet, and it doesn't hurt them. The only pain they're going to get is the initial darts going into them, and, if they fall, they could get hurt that way. But that's it. They don't feel the pain from the electricity. What it does is it immobilizes them. So, I don't know why any state like New York would make them illegal. In my opinion, I'd much rather people carry the stun gun over an actual gun. But that's what a stun gun is. The taser, that's a taser. I'm sorry. That's what a taser is. It shoots the darts 15 feet, and immobilize the person before they get to you. Now, the stun gun is the handheld device that you have to use up close to the person. This would be like if somebody comes up behind you, grabs you, and you can use the stun gun on their arm or whatever. With a stun gun, they will feel the pain. It doesn't necessarily immobilize them. What it does is it shoots a very sharp pain through them, So that's the difference between the stun gun and the taser. I highly recommend the taser myself. But check them out. Look over the prices. A stun gun is cheaper than a taser, so, that might be one of the things that might make you think about getting a stun gun over the taser. Truckers-defense.com, and check them out. Check out the prices. Talk to the guys there. Very good people and very good prices, and a very good alternative, when it comes to self-defense. That's truckers-defense.com. Check them out.
The Liberty National Network.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. But every driver seeks the pinnacle of their achievements. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
You may have doubts about healthcare sharing. I know we did. We studied literature about Samaritan Ministries, but we feared that it was just too risky. Instead, as our health insurance premiums went up each year, we would increase our deductible to reduce the premium. And then the inevitable happened. We had to use our insurance. We had a medical need that included tests, doctor visits, and even outpatient surgery treatment that totaled over $7,000, and it was all out of pocket. It took us 3 years to pay off, even after several of our healthcare providers reduced their charges. And we finally took a leap of faith and joined Samaritan.
Each month, we get to give to an actual person with a medical need. We pray for them and put them in the hands of the Lord for physical, emotional, and financial strength and healing. There's no way to fully express that pleasure and joy. During the first year we were members, we had a medical need, and it was all provided for. And the strength, peace, and healing from prayer.
Last year, our son was injured on a mission trip 1,200 miles from home. The bills for the emergency room, doctors, stitches, and prescriptions totaled $5,300. But every last cent was provided for. In fact, last year we had 2 more needs, and each time our Samaritan family came through.
I worked in healthcare for 10 years, from front desk through billing. I would recommend Samaritan instead of any insurance product out there. Insurance has no assurances. In fact, it seems everything is written in such a way that there will be no assurance at your time of need. We just wish that we had trusted in God's provisions sooner.
It is such a blessing to come alongside our brothers and sisters in Christ and share in each other's healthcare burdens. And there's such a peace and joy knowing that God is answering our prayers, bringing healing and providing for our needs.
Hi, I'm Eric, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is President of Hillsdale College, Dr. Larry Arnn, on natural rights versus entitlements.
America was founded on the idea that human beings are born with natural rights, such as the rights to life, liberty, and property. A person who holds this view of rights makes no demands on others except that they respect those rights. Today, however, many Americans talk about rights to a college education, state-of-the-art medical care, and even birth control pills. These are rights understood as entitlements, and a person who holds this view of rights, far from making no demands on other people, is making claims on other people's money and resources. This understanding of rights not only sets citizens against each other, but it undermines the whole idea of natural rights.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To receive a free pocket Constitution and Declaration, go to constitutionminute.com.
Miss Producer is also known as Miss Giggles. You are listening to Political TNT on the Liberty National Network. If you want to be part of the show, dial 914-338-1906 and then press 1.
All right, welcome back to Political TNT. And Travis decided he was going to show up to work today. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, well, it's not my fault that we have different time zones.
Come on now, you're a trucker. And we also have Chris Powell on the show. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Glad to be back, fellas.
Yeah, great to have you back, and congratulations on your win. And
thank you.
Yeah, and you had a lot. You were very optimistic that you were going to win too. I remember you sending me a text message saying, "I'll be back on the show after I win the election," and and Also, I found out that you did that same thing with our local talk show guy there. Right? Dang it. It's a terrible that I forget his name because I do listen to him. KTOK.
Chad Mullins or Mac Mullins and Chad Alexander and those guys? On KOKC?
It's on KTOK 1000.
You know what the sure sign of old age is, right?
No. It's just a busy lifestyle.
Lack of memory.
No. But I heard that you did that to him too. You said that you'll be on the show after you win the election.
Well, we felt very confident that we could come out on top, and fortunately, I feel very fortunate to be correct on that.
Yep. Yeah, and that's good. You're so optimistic, and because that I mean, to tell you the truth, both of you guys, both Rex Lawhorn and you, were very good candidates. I like you both. I mean, I was like, man, this race here, we have very good people running.
Yeah, it's I think it's an accomplishment to have won when the competition is so good. I mean, it's
yes.
The guy that finished in third place didn't put in the kind of effort that the two guys who made it to the runoff did. So
yeah, I felt that
think,
too.
Yeah, I think that says something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been paying attention to y'all's race over there, and I got stuck over there in Oklahoma. And
hold on, you don't get stuck in Oklahoma. You get blessed in Oklahoma.
No, I got stuck. I don't see, after sitting there watching the political ads on TV there at the McDonald's there at the Pilot, I don't understand why the Libertarian Party ain't number one on everybody's voting. I mean, I sat there and watched them, and I was like, I can't believe they're even running these ads.
Well,
who is their campaign manager? I would, excuse my language, I'd slap the shit out of them if they were my campaign managers. It's like they're trying to make them lose.
Well, I will tell you that I have not been impressed with the campaigning of any of the other candidates of the other two parties. Now, there's some of those individuals that I like and respect and think highly of, as far as not the people that were nominated, but some of the other ones I have a high opinion of. But as far as the campaigns themselves, I haven't seen anything that has particularly impressed me with all the resources that they have. If I had those kind of resources, this race would be over already. We'd be done. They would have conceded by now. I don't have those kind of resources, and we do need the kind of the kind of financial resources they've got. So anybody listening who wants to help us compete with our much better stuff against their so-so not very good stuff, powellforgovernor.com/donate. That's the place to go.
Yeah, I agree, because, here's an example of one, okay? The guy running for the mayor of Oklahoma City. And I brought this up on the last show with Oklahoma Tomcat. The guy running for mayor of Oklahoma City, saying that he's against Obamacare and he's going to fight against it if he's elected. I'm like, you're a mayor. You have no power. But what's in the city?
Well, he had been mayor and he was running for governor, but then he lost. So he was trying to say he was going to do for Oklahoma City, for the entire state what he did for Oklahoma City. But there's a lot of people here in Oklahoma City who, when he says that, we take it as a threat. So, he talks about creating 100,000 jobs. In that same time period, the population of the area that he's talking about increased by 500,000. So that's one job for every 5 people. That's not very good.
No, I guess he should have looked at his numbers before he went out and said that.
Well, you can create 500,000. You can create 500,000 jobs by working on some of them roads over there in Oklahoma. I'm sorry, I'm always going to harp on them roads.
One of the things that I came across is that the Cato Institute came out with their yearly Freedom in the 50 States list, and I'm quite upset.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma dropped in their rating. We're now at number 19, and I'm thinking to myself, why are we even at 19? Oklahoma is one of the states, where so many people that I talk to want the government out of their life, but yet we're not doing very good. We dropped 6 points on that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's because regardless of party, but the politicians in both of those establishment parties they pull power to themselves to decide things for us. Now, it might be different things. One party might want to dip in your wallet more than the other party that wants to get in your bedroom, but they're both trying to get power to themselves.
Yes, I agree with that. And what's real bad is this really looks bad for the Republicans because, Mary Fallin has been our governor, and here they're talking about in this list what kills us is, and which we've talked about on this show with you before, is our incarceration rate. We're real quick to put people in jail.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
It's the highest incarceration rate in the country. So it's it's a real problem that we've got to address. And there's been a lot of talk about criminal justice reform, but it's been talk. They passed a few bills here and there that nibble around the edges. But we really are trying to aggressively attack this massive problem that we have, not just in the cost, although that's certainly a problem, but the overcrowding. I'm shocked that we haven't had a prison riot yet, a real serious prison riot over this. And we're putting people in prison who should be out being productive citizens and living their lives. They don't belong there in the first place, and we're not doing anything about it. So that's really something that if people in Oklahoma want to send a message that they want change on criminal justice to stop overfilling our prisons, Chris Powell's your choice.
Yes, and the civil asset forfeiture, that's another thing they slammed us for. You're against that, aren't you?
Right. We have... if you're not convicting somebody of a crime, you shouldn't be keeping their stuff. There's all kinds of things that can be done as far as making sure that things like money and items can be held in criminal cases. That is not civil asset forfeiture, where it's just taken to be used for whatever the state or the political entity thinks it can be used for. So you don't have to do that. The only reason you have to do that is if you want to just take the stuff from somebody that you're never going to prosecute. Well, if a crime was committed, we need to prosecute somebody. If there wasn't a crime committed, then we don't need to take their stuff. It's one way or the other.
Yeah, and I've heard that it's very, very hard to get your stuff back even after you've been found innocent.
It is. It is. Naturally, these programs get set up to where they're used to taking things in, and then the process to get it back is naturally a lot more difficult. And, it's all fine and good to say that you can go through the process and go through the judge and all that, but that requires a lawyer. That requires a lot of time and effort. And, if you've just had your life savings taken from you, what resources do you have left? So, you put people at a disadvantage and then say, well, you've got this process, use it. Well, that's a little bit like the government breaking your legs and then handing you a crutch. It's, you're not helping with that.
Yeah, that there would make it extremely difficult. If you really think about it, everything is already taken away from you. How are you gonna, go to court and all that stuff to fight to get your stuff back? Because I heard they don't just give it back to you.
No.
I was watching this video of this one family where that happened. The guy was pulled over, and he, his house was raided. That's what it was. His house was raided, and I forget the whole details, but he was found innocent in court, but he couldn't get anything back. He was trying to fight it and all that stuff to get his stuff back, and it really destroyed that family a whole lot. His marriage and everything. So it's terrible that, number one, we would even be convicting people of crime, a victimless crime. But then another thing, that we actually take everything away from them. And who gets that? Where's that money go? The government, huh?
Yeah. And a lot of times it's put right back into the agencies that are taking the property or funds or whatever it is. So that gives a perverse incentive to take things, and that's certainly inappropriate.
Yeah. That's rewarding people to throw more people in jail.
Exactly.
That needs to end.
Yeah.
That really does.
Yeah, there's a study. There was an action that happened down here in Texas. And me and Oklahoma Tomcat talked about this a while back. There was a truck driver that was going to Lufkin, Texas, I think it was, and he was in an old beat-up 18-wheeler, and he had right about $100,000 on him. And he got pulled over. Cops searched his truck, found $100,000 cash, took his truck, and confiscated his $100,000, and then released him from jail. But he never got his $100,000 back. And people were saying, well, you shouldn't have been having $100,000. Well, you can ask me and Oklahoma Tomcat, an average cost of these trucks is $100,000. And his truck, and they said his truck was falling apart. So, and he was going to Lufkin, Texas, which we know that there is a lot of trucks lots there in Lufkin, brand new truck lots. So $100,000 worth of trade-in of an old truck would be about $120,000, which would be completely paid off in full, brand spanking new 18-wheeler. And he lost all of his money. Lost every bit of it because the police officer said he was acting weird.
Weird. And see, that's the other thing that drives me crazy with this civil asset forfeiture. It's not just like drugs or stuff like that. I watch these cop shows, and I don't know why I do it, because I keep on yelling at the computer screen when I'm watching it. But I see these people getting pulled over, and when the officer searches their vehicle, they don't find drugs, they don't find anything, illegal, what they find is a large sum of cash, and they confiscate it. I'm like, why? That is that something that also happens? Is that part of Oklahoma's civil asset forfeiture? If they find large sums of cash, they'll confiscate it.
They can. And I'll tell you something. These interdiction units, when they're out watching on I-35, they're not watching the northbound side. They're watching the southbound side because that's the way that the money's going. That's what they're looking for. Now, a lot of people will bring up a concern that that some of the people that get pulled over, a lot of the people that get pulled over are involved in something that is illegal, and we can argue whether it should be illegal or not. We can. That's a different debate. In the context of this, they'll say, whether they're doing something that's illegal. Those are funds that came from criminal activity. Why should they be allowed to go on their way with those funds? Well, those people that are carrying those funds, that's not the people that are making all of that money. They're just the runner that is transporting it from one place to another. And when they get pulled over, a lot of times what they will say is that they didn't know the money was there. Well, if you're that concerned about the funds and you have something like that where it's a criminal activity, whether it should be or not, again, that's a different issue, and this person says, I don't know how that $30,000 got hidden under the wheel well of this vehicle. I don't know anything about it. Well, police can hold those funds for safekeeping because it's essentially found money at that point. The person that is driving the vehicle is disclaiming ownership. The police can take that and hold that for safekeeping for whomever wishes to claim it to come and get it. And if it's something legitimate, why wouldn't you go back and get your money? And it's not a court process. It's just showing up and and claiming your money. If it's really a criminal enterprise that they want to stop, you'd think they'd want to do that. So if somebody does show up to claim that money, they know they got their guy. But that's not how they do it. They would rather go through the civil asset forfeiture process because then they get to keep the money regardless of what they can find on a crime and use it for their own purposes.
And see, that's where I have a problem.
To real theft.
And that's where I have somewhat of a problem with it, is because when I was working in construction, a lot of homeowners paid me in cash to buy material. I mean, you could find me running around with $20,000 cash going to buy material because the homeowner gave it to me. So if I get pulled over by the police and they find the $20,000 cash, they take it from me and say all they have to do is bring a dog out there. Oh, we smelt drugs. And I know for a fact you didn't find drugs on me. But they take the money anyways.
Yeah, see, the two things you mentioned there, the two different scenarios you mentioned there, Chris, the first one you mentioned, I can kind of understand. If you find cash in a vehicle, a large sum of cash, and you ask the person of it, I mean, my wife and I, we pay cash for our vehicles and stuff like that. We don't do credits and all that stuff. And I know if a police officer stopped me and did a search, of course he would have a warrant because I would require it. And he found a large sum of cash. I would be able to answer him. Hey, yeah, I took it on my bank. I'm about to go up here, buy a car and all that, and that would be the end of it, right? But if a person's like, oh, I didn't know I had cash in the wheel well of a vehicle, yeah, that would look very suspicious, And if they did that, they held it for safekeeping for it to be claimed, then I'd be more understandable of that. But with the civil asset forfeiture, where they just take the money and then that's it, you have to go to court and you have to fight the government to get your money back. That is totally wrong. That's theft.
Yeah, we need to. Normally don't get your money back either.
Yeah, We need to reform that. We need some reform with that so that you can't just have your money taken and all of your resources to be able to try to get your money back taken at the same time. This is not necessary in order to fight the criminal activity that they want to fight. So if it's not necessary, why are we doing it?
Right.
Yeah, and that's a lot of things too. I mean, everybody knows about the father that was walking his son down the street in Texas to earn a badge, and we've all seen the video where the cop come out there, and you can clearly see the cop escalating the situation on purpose. And he was the main ones that fight for open carry in Texas over that. I can't remember his name right off the bat. But they charged him with crimes after that. A lot of people don't know this. They charged him with crimes, and I think it was 6 years after the incident, he finally got his guns back after spending close to $50,000 fighting it in court just to get his guns back and his gun rights. All because the cop decided to break the law. He was in the right. He could carry a long gun down the road openly. That was the law in Texas. But they didn't like that law, so they arrested him. Charged him with resisting arrest, so that way he lost his gun rights. And that's and so what I'm seeing is that maybe there might be also a need to overhaul the police stations and how they act and how they treat them. Instead of coming out there thinking they know everything, they need to actually obey the law.
Well, certainly you have, there are going to be issues with individual officers, if nothing else. You're eventually going to have issues there. I mean, police departments are comprised of human beings, and some are really good and some are not. One of the things that we need government to do in general is to make sure that we have safeguards in place to catch that kind of thing, rather than giving authority to do whatever. We need processes in place so that we can find the guys that shouldn't have a badge and a gun, and make sure that we get them off the force so they're not, so they can't continue to abuse that power. But it's just like any other human endeavor. You're going to have some people who do bad things occasionally. I would say, as far as the gun rights thing, in reference to that, something that I would like to see us do is look at ways to give individuals back their Second Amendment rights after a certain amount of years or something of that nature. We have, after a certain amount of time, if you're a felon, you can get your voting rights back. And why shouldn't that apply to the Second Amendment as well? Especially if your crime was something that had nothing to do with any kind of violence. Like if you were a white-collar criminal who hacked somebody's credit card. You should certainly pay for that crime, but what does that got to do with your right to defend yourself under the Second Amendment? Nothing. So, I think that's something that we need to do is look at being able to bring people back to getting their Second Amendment rights back, as well as other things like voting and things like that.
Yeah. As governor, if you're elected as governor, here's a question. I normally let Oklahoma Tomcat take over this since for Oklahoma, but here's a very important question. We've all been told throughout our whole life, man, through school, through growing up, we've heard it from individuals, this one word or this one phrase: ignorance of the law is no excuse. Right? What would you do? Because when the police officers come and arrest somebody and they arrest them on stuff that's not even against the law, you see where I'm going with this now? They're arresting somebody that's not even breaking the law just to throw them in jail. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. People tell us, well, we just got to obey them. They're just there to enforce the law. What law they're enforcing? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So because they're police officers, we're going to let them have a slide excuse. Well, I didn't know that was the law.
Well, it certainly, certainly, like I said, we need to have processes in place to where having that authority and abusing it, you can be held accountable for that. A lot of that comes back to our district attorney. If you have a district attorney who is always going to side with an officer, no matter how wrong that officer might have been, obviously that's a problem. It's part of the same problem with the fact that we elect our district attorneys based on on their conviction rate. They'll go out and campaign for re-election on how many people they threw in jail. This goes back to criminal justice reform. We need to educate voters in this state that that's not the only thing you need to look at for your district attorney. You need somebody who's going to apply the law fairly all across the board, and hold a police officer accountable if they violate the law, and also look at whether they're taking easy convictions just so they can keep their numbers up, not prosecuting crimes that need to be prosecuted because they're difficult to get a conviction on. District attorneys will do that. They'll decline to file on something that's really a serious crime that may not get public attention because for one reason or another it might be difficult to get a conviction there. You need district attorneys that are willing to prosecute the right crimes and accept the fact that they might lose sometimes. And that's not necessarily always the case in what we're getting.
All right, we're talking to Chris Powell, and let me tell you guys real quick here about earth water. Earth water has 70-plus minerals and is unlike any other water out there. You buy a lot of these waters, they're actually coming from a tap. The reservoir and stuff may be coming from a stream, a fresh spring and all that. But there's really nothing much more to the water other than it's filtered. Earth water actually has 70-plus trace minerals in it, and it is very good for you because you need those minerals in your body to stay healthy. If you go to earthwater.com/P as in Papa, T as in Tango, A as in Alpha, T as in Tango. That's PTAT. You will get a discount. Check them out. Also, right on that website, we'll explain to you everything about earth water, including why is the water black. Earth water. That's earthwater.com/PTAT. We'll be back right after these messages.
The Liberty National Network.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn those earrings today. I like those earrings. Gabby has those awesome earrings. I need to ask her where she got those, but that's just what she would want me to do. I'll have Michaela ask her for me.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Yeah, but then Michaela will be like, why don't you just ask her yourself? That's just like Michaela.
Sarah, buckle up.
Michaela's such a great name. I wish I was called Michaela. There's like a dozen Sarahs in my class.
Hey, we're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh, yeah, seatbelt. I forget sometimes because my brain is, busy, I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
Sometimes it can be tough to get through to your kids, but it's not impossible. Always make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Remember, you have the keys, you have the power. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Horses are non-threatening. They're a majestic, magnificent creature. We see guys and gals find a great sense of inner peace and calmness as they start listening to the breathing of the horse, and they start grooming the horse, and they start being around the horse as much. Something magical starts happening with that connection that's hard to actually put into words, but it's palpable. You can feel it. You can feel that connection.
My name is Sterling Buckles, and I was a Lance Corporal with 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, and I was injured in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I was actually hit in the head by a sniper bullet that penetrated through my helmet and collapsed the right side of my skull, and it was just a blessing that I survived it and got medevaced right away to Baghdad, where there was an Army brain surgeon gave me brain surgery to take all the fragments of the skull out of my brain and then put in 2 titanium plates. Coming back, I was diagnosed pretty much right away with 100% PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And so, to say the least, life has been really difficult. Horses for Heroes program has been a real blessing to my life, to where now I feel like I have more of a purpose. That's a big thing coming back, is you were so important while you were serving in the military that you come back and you don't feel like you really have a purpose anymore in life, or that you're really behind the other 20-something-year-old people that, you know, had done other choices with their lives. If I come down here and I feel really anxious and just filled with anxiety and nervous, and, you know, I spend a little bit of time with the horse, it seems like the horse calms me down and my anxiety level just starts to really drop. So you're not really caring about yourself the whole time, but you're caring about something else. Really kind of gives me you know, a good sense of accomplishment, and at the end of the day you're tired, but it's a good tired.
Hi, I'm Corinne, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is President of Hillsdale College, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the threat of bureaucratic despotism.
One of the chief sponsors of the Dodd-Frank Finance Reform Bill called that legislation, quote, about as important as it gets, because it deals with every single aspect of our lives, end quote. And how does this legislation deal with every aspect of our lives? In the most unconstitutional way. It sets up a board called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which has the power to regulate our economic transactions independently of both the President and Congress. In other words, permanent government employees are placed in charge of us beyond the control of those we elect, the control of we the people. This is a violation of the representative form of government, without which there can be no constitutional government.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To receive a free pocket constitution and declaration, go to constitutionminute.com.
The Liberty National Network.
Travis Pope may sound like a big bad gorilla, but he is really a big cuddly teddy bear. You are listening to Political TNT on the Liberty National Network. If you want to be part of the show, dial 914-338-1906 and then press 1.
All right, welcome back to Political TNT. We have Chris Powell on the show, and asking him a lot of questions about Oklahoma's condition and local laws and some of the stupid laws they have that we need, and why we need a libertarian as governor. And one of the questions I have for you was actually brought to my attention by an Oklahoma blogger, libertarian Okie, which is Miss Christie. And she had a question for you about State Question 800, which will be on November's ballot. What this is, I just had it. There it is. All right. This law would change the Oklahoma State Constitution. It requires that each year 5% of the money from the state oil and gas production tax be placed into a fund called the Oklahoma Vision Fund, which, from what I understand, that's going to be a new thing. Then 4% of the money made from the fund will be used as money for the state. Representative John Montgomery, who is a representative out of Lawton, has stated the objective of these changes is to mitigate the EBB and flow of our oil and gas industry and the impact it has on our revenue. And she wants to know how you feel about this.
Well, I think that we've already got a rainy day fund. So we have a process for trying to prepare for times when we don't have as much revenue as we have in other times. I don't know why we need to create a separate fund to do that as well. It's like we're going to have a savings account and then we're going to have another savings account. If the savings account we've already got has some kind of problem with it, that it's not working the way that we want, why don't we just change it? We could do that. So I'm not really sure why we need this duplicate effort to try to accomplish the same sort of goal. So that, and a lot of times when things don't make sense that government is doing, it's because we're not seeing everything. So I would be a little concerned about what may be going to happen with this if it actually becomes law, as far as what's going to happen with those funds. I think I read what Christie wrote about it, and I kind of share her concerns that this is going to be something that's going to be used for things that it doesn't need to be used for. Like I said, we've already got one savings account. If it's not working right, let's fix it. Let's not have another one so that we can misuse it too.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing that struck me is, number one, I mean, we have all this money that, now we can just start putting in various savings accounts. And if we're not able to handle one savings account, why are we going to have another one? And I think she says in here that one person is actually going to be in charge of I'm trying to skim through it right now. I know I read it last night, and it kind of threw me that one person would actually be in charge of it or something like that.
Now, I wasn't real clear on that part of it. I haven't studied that quite as closely as I will be. But again, I'm skeptical from the get-go on it that we need a second savings account. And like I said, if we don't know exactly how this is going to work, and we already have something that does something kind of similar, it seems very likely to me that there is more going on here than meets the eye, and that's generally not good when it comes to government operations.
You know, one thing I wish the government would quit saying?
What's that?
You know, I wish they'd quit saying savings account, because you think about it. It's the way they use the terms, okay? If they would have said, well, we're going to create a spending account, nobody would be for it. Because that's what they use them for, is spending.
Yeah.
They don't use them to save nothing. Oh, you know, but now that they say, we're going to use it for a savings account. Savings, okay, I'm a little bit happier with savings account, but what are you going to save it for?
Well, that's you know, that's one of the concerns, is that it's supposed to shore up some of our finances in down times, but that doesn't mean it's not going to get used for a lot of other things. And then, you know, one person's downtimes is another person's opportunity to spend money on a pet project. So, you know,
right.
And the more of these accounts that we have, the harder it is for us, the public, to be able to watch and see what happens with each one of them.
Yeah, especially when you got these mixings, because a percentage of this money will actually go into the, you know, be able to be moved to the rainy day fund. And when you start juggling money between accounts like that, it does make it very, very hard to watch. And you know, the rainy day fund is supposed to be the one that's used if during the downtime. You know, why we have another one, which sounds like it's going to be a lot easier for our elected leaders to be messing and dipping into than the rainy day fund.
Yeah, it's you know, we need more transparency in what our government does, not more accounts for them to play around with.
Right. Now, I got into an argument with somebody the other day. He claimed he was a libertarian, but he won't be voting for you, unfortunately, because he's afraid that the Democrat's going to win. How do you handle people who say that type of thing? Because it irritates me. It irritates me to no end.
It's not a very reasonable approach. I mean, if you don't vote for what you want, then you're never going to get what you want. The only way to get it is to vote for it regardless. But this is a perception problem that we have, that people think that they have to vote for that they, I don't know if they think they get some sort of prize if they vote for the winner or what. I don't understand it. But there's a lot of people who look at it that way, and that's just where they are. You have to approach voters where they are, not where you think they should be. But I think once we get into some polling and we demonstrate that we have more support than these people think that we do, then we're going to have more people who are interested in coming around to supporting an alternative candidate once they see that. And I feel pretty confident that when the first polling comes out, now that all the nominations have been decided, that we're going to look pretty good in that. I mean, we're not going to be in the lead, but we're not going to be like a lot of alternative party candidates are, down in the doldrums at 1 or 2%. We're going to be much better than that, in large part because of the whole primary process that we've had with this contested primary, with Rex and with Joe, that has gotten a lot of attention and gotten us in a lot of events all the way through the process. We're a known quantity in a way that we wouldn't be if just one person had had sought the nomination and gotten it, and just been that one libertarian guy that nobody talks about. So I think we're going to do pretty well with the polls when they start coming out. And once people see that we've got a little something to us, then we're going to get a little something more as they realize there's really something going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with these negative ads that keep on coming out. Because, I mean, well, I do believe, that the ads should be, why you're the best person and all that, when all you can do is attack the other person. Because, I mean, the Republican and the Edmondson and Stitt's already at it with calling, Fallin light and stuff like that. I feel if that's all you can do, to say you're the best person because the other person's bad, then to me you're not the person to vote for. You should be able to talk about positive. Why are you the best person? I want to hear your record, not why the other person's bad. I can look that up myself.
Well, that's what Tomcat was talking about, all the ads that he saw. It's not going to be any different in the general election. It's just the targets are going to be different. But they really don't have anything to offer. You've got a corporate CEO who is trying to buy an office, and you've got the Democrat that time forgot. I mean, this guy first ran for office when Nixon was president. I mean, he's been around forever. So, they don't have anything new. They don't have anything to offer, really. And I think people are already tired of hearing from them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we can see how Republicans and Democrats have run the state, and the fact that our freedom rating keeps on dropping, that just says a lot right there. The other thing I want to talk to you about is that Mary Fallin has again asked for an extension on the Real ID, which this here is something that was set up by the federal government. States are not required to comply, but if they don't comply, then to get into federal businesses and to bases and all that, the people of the state would have to have like a passport or something like that. Number one, I want to know where you stand on the Real ID, and number two, about the constant asking for extensions.
Well, I think if you had some kind of leadership from the governor's office, that this would have been resolved long ago. And to me, the obvious solution is that you create two different kinds of ID, which I think that's what a lot of people have been trying to do. But, there's a lot of people in the state who don't want to give over their biometrics, and I understand that. I don't think that they really should be forced to do so in order to get a driver's license. So, creating an ID that is not going to have the properties that the federal government wants so that these people can operate, as they have that option available to them, accepting the fact that it's not going to give them it's not going to provide what the federal government wants. That seems to me to be the obvious solution, and I don't know why we can't just get that done. The federal government won't like that. What they want us to do is force everybody to do what they want. But as governor, I am not going to be interested in carrying water for the federal government on much of anything. Certainly they have some power to turn the screws on you, but everything that we can do to prevent them from doing that and pushing back on that federal overreach is something that we need to do.
You know what? Anyone who doesn't vote for you, I'm just going to have to slap them. Because I love that answer. Because, I mean, I didn't even think about that, having just the two different IDs, And this is, and for anyone listening that's like, oh, you want to have to have two IDs and stuff. Yeah, this is something that would affect me, because I was thinking, the passport, I'd be like, you know what? I don't want the real ID driver's license, I would go ahead and get the passport, because I don't think everybody should, like you said, not everyone should have to pay for it, first of all, because, it is an increased cost, right?
Right.
And also, why should you give up your personal information if you don't need to, right? I'm against the whole thing in the first place. I say it's, the federal government doing this is taking away our liberty for false security, because that's really what it is, false security.
Right.
But, for Oklahoma, I want you to do that. I want you to fight against, the government overreach. Say no. If somebody needs to get into government buildings on the bases and stuff, which I have one or two choices. Either I give up truck driving, or I'd have to have the real ID or whatever they want. But I don't think that I don't think everyone in the state should have to do that, because, what percentage of the people in the state really need something like that in the first place, Yeah.
And if it's, if it's such a great idea to do it, why can't you let somebody have an exemption if they want it, and then over time they'll realize, well, hey, that's a good idea, I should be doing that. If you don't think it's a good idea, then you try to force everybody to go along with it if you don't think it's really for their benefit.
That would be kind of hard. Well, that's going to be kind of hard for someone like me, because I've talked to Oklahoma Tomcat about this. I can't even get a TWIC card. I'm caught in between something here. My mom changed my name when I was 2 years old. Okay, she changed my name she changed my last name from Spears to Pope, to my stepdad's last name. Okay, so I went to go get my TWIC card, and my birth certificate still says Spears. I need my name change papers. So I and I've gotten these same papers from Fort Worth before, but they were destroyed in a flood in Woodville. So I no longer have them papers. I can get my birth certificate all day. So I contacted Fort Worth, and I said, hey, I need to get a copy of my name change papers. And they said, when did it happen? And I told them back in '76. And they said, okay, we'll look for them. They said, well, we haven't digitized them yet. We'll have to go through the archives manually and look for it. I said, okay, what do I need to do? They said, send us a money order for $10 with a self-addressed envelope. So I did that. A few days later, about a week later, I get a phone call from them. They cannot find my name change papers any longer. There's nowhere to be found. So I can't even get a TWIC card because I can't even get my name change papers. Period. So this this ID card that you're talking about, I wouldn't even be able to get that because, well, my birth certificate says Spears, but my driver's license says Pope.
Yeah, and I'm looking up Texas right now because I didn't know if Texas was also going through the extension. Yeah, it looks like they got an extension also. So that's a very good question that Travis is bringing up with this real ID card. Would that affect people that's like in Travis's situation where his last name does not match because it was changed and he can't get his birth certificate or whatever?
There was this is an interesting story. There's a guy named Benjamin Kyle, or at least that's the name that he used. He was found naked and unconscious behind a Burger King in Georgia in, I think around 2006 or so. And he had amnesia. He could not remember who he was. And that case was not resolved until, about a year or two ago through genealogy research and finding a DNA match to a family in Indiana. So he was finally reconnected with a family member and basically given his identity back. But for that entire time of over 10 years, when he didn't know who he was, he didn't have identification, he didn't have a Social Security number, he didn't have anything. He could not work legally. So he was a non-person. And this is kind of, he's the only person that's ever been listed in the FBI missing persons database where they knew where he was. So that's a case, and it's a case, like for you, Travis, where, the law is supposed to be here for the people, not the people here for the law. But obviously, in these cases, it's been turned the other way around, where the law is not serving the people are made to serve the law. So that's something that, we really need to try to, and this is all throughout everything, probably everywhere in the world, really. We need to make it more the case that the law is, we remember that the law is intended to serve the people and not the other way around.
Yeah, because if I could get a TWIC card, it could open up a whole bunch of doors for me. But I can't get one.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to be back right after
The Liberty National Network.
Where do you want to go to lunch? I'm having a stroke. Did you hear what I said? I'm having a stroke. Why aren't you answering me? I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST, F, face drooping, A, arm weakness, S, speech difficulty, T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
The oldest existing human that we know of is the 5,300-year-old body of a man, frozen in ice, that was uncovered by climbers in the Italian Alps in 1991. His name is Ötzi, the Iceman, and aside from being extremely well preserved, he was remarkable for another reason: the 61 tattoos that adorned his body. For as long as we've been on the planet, humankind has marked their bodies to commemorate important events, imply meaning, or signify value. Everything from a sailor's inscription of a lost lover's name to the tribal markings of indigenous peoples denoting a ceremony or achievement reminds us that using permanent markings can be one of the clearest ways to show what's meaningful to us. As it turns out, we aren't the only ones who do this. God does too. Listen to this powerful verse in Isaiah. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. That verse is part of a passage where God reminds his people that he has not forgotten them, even during an extended period of captivity. And while the most important part may seem to be the fact that God has engraved or tattooed the name of his people on his body, it's worth considering where that engraving occurs: his hands. A lot has changed in the lives of human beings over the years, but we still use our hands for nearly every daily task imaginable. We look at them hundreds, maybe even thousands of times each day. The implication here is powerful, that our names are never out of God's sight. I want us to think about that. If your own life's commitments were to be written on your hands, what would they be? Work, school, your career? Or would they be the names of people in your life, family members, friends, and those inside or outside of your church community? It's often easy to lose sight of what matters amidst the hustle and bustle of our lives, but I think this verse and the principle it embodies ought to be a powerful reminder to all of us of two things: to put first things first in our lives, and remind us of our Heavenly Father's love for us. I want you to picture his hands right now, the same hands that knit the galaxies together, and then picture your own name, tattooed in his skin. Powerful, isn't it? Our God has marked us into his heart as permanently as ink sets into our skin. We are always in his mind, always in his eyes, and always in his heart. I'm Joseph Tkach, speaking of life.
I'm Joy, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is President of Hillsdale College, Dr. Larry Arnn, on why the Constitution limits government.
James Madison writes in Federalist 51 that men are not angels. Their passions and self-interest often get the better of their reason and sense of justice. So we need government in order to protect our rights against those who would take them away. But for the same reason, Madison writes, government must be limited, because people in government have passions and interests too. Many Americans today forget this, supposing that we can do away with constitutional limits on government, supposing that the unelected bureaucrats being put in charge of our health care, for example, will rule as if they are angels. If Madison was correct about human nature, this is foolish and dangerous.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To receive a free pocket Constitution and Declaration, go to constitutionminute.com.
The Oklahoma Tomcat thinks he is a big tough cat, but he is actually as harmless as a kitten. You are listening to Political TNT on the Liberty National Network. If you want to be part of the show, dial 914-338-1906 and then press 1.
All right, welcome back to Political TNT. We have Chris Powell on the as our guest here, and we were talking about the Real ID and the issue that people like Travis may run into. That there's something I didn't even think about. Right now Travis is lucky because Texas is doing the same thing that Oklahoma is doing, which is constant extensions, but eventually they may very well be in compliance with the federal regulations. And I never thought about that. Would that be an issue for Travis? Because I don't know the federal what what all they're doing here.
Well, I imagine it's going to be just like the TWIC card, because that I'm telling you, the TWIC card was probably the pilot program for this new ID that they're talking about.
Yeah, I'm trying to check it out, because if that is an issue, then would you even be able to get a driver's license?
Hey, I'll be fine riding a horse as long as they don't have me require. That'll be my new truck driving deal. I'll just get me a horse and carriage. There you go.
That's some real teamsters right there.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, hey, you might be able to just bypass those Oklahoma scales that keep us delayed or detained for 30 minutes.
Well, you heard me what I told them the last time when I got into them Colorado scales. You didn't think I'd do it.
As governor, Chris, how I don't know if it has to go through the legislator or if you were able to do something. Would you be able to do anything to speed up those scales in Oklahoma?
I think some of that would be they would probably want more funding to do it. That's going to be a concern there. And it's also the roads themselves need a lot of attention as well. So,
yes.
One of the things that I do want to do right off the bat is a performance audit of ODOT. People talk about we're going to audit everything. Well, you can't do everything all at once. I think it's important to say what your priority is, and ODOT is one of them that's right up at the top of my list.
That would be good. That would be. Because we paid lots of money already to those brand new super scales on I-35. Why? They got such outdated system that we have to sit on the scale for so long, while they're typing everything in, and then most of the time we're called in, to show paperwork, which should pop up on their screen. Most states have very fast scale.
Now let's call them for what they are, revenue scales.
Yeah, they are.
Well, that's something that can certainly be looked at as far as the operation of it, but I'm just going to tell you there's a lot to be done with ODOT, and not just with the highways. They've talked to any county commissioner in the state, and they'll tell you how the CIRB fund that they use for their long-term county road projects has been repeatedly ransacked by the legislature. So there's a lot of problems there that needs to be addressed as far as making that operate in a more efficient fashion. I don't know how many. There's a number of roads that I have seen in traveling around the state that are 2-lane divided roads to nowhere, and I don't know who had the pull to get those built. But obviously maintaining those and that kind of thing, we can't maintain what we already have. But there's always projects to build more and tie up road or highways with road construction more. When, like I said, we can't maintain what we already have. We need a performance audit so we can make sure that as we go forward, we can maintain what we build. And build what we need the way it needs to be so that it can be maintained easier.
Yeah, I think we need to fix roads before we build new roads, especially going nowhere. I remember my parents when they first moved to Oklahoma, they were, I forget which highway it was, but they talked about one of them. It's a 2-lane divided highway. They decided to go ahead and take it, and it took them nowheres. I mean, it was just there. There was nothing. I mean, not even a store or anything.
Isn't any road in Oklahoma a road to nowhere?
No, there's lots of roads to places.
You know why they call Oklahoma the Sooner State, right?
Why?
The sooner you're out of there, the better off you are.
No, it is not. Man, you're just jealous.
The real roads to nowhere in Oklahoma are the ones that go out of state.
Yep.
There you
go.
The roads to nowhere lead you out of state.
Yeah, Oklahoma, the crossroads of the United States. Crossroads and finally get out of there.
You gotta excuse Travis. He's just jealous. He wishes he lived in Oklahoma.
Well,
I'm not. No. I like keeping my money on my paycheck, so there's no jealousy there. I don't like. Texas doesn't have a state income tax, and I'll stay with Texas.
Well, we did look that up, and we found out that the other taxes are higher in Texas. So they still get your money. You guys property taxes and stuff. I mean, I like the fact that I got 20 acres and only pay $60 a year on it.
We're working on getting rid of property taxes altogether. What do you say to that?
Well, let me know when you get that done.
Well, I was about to say that.
Actually, that did pass the voters, and now our state legislator have to figure out a way to do away with the property taxes and find alternative income without a state income.
Yeah,
a state income tax.
There's something I always say about government. See, I mean, if Oklahoma, in fact, Oklahoma was talking about getting rid of the state income tax, and I was like, and my first thought was just like what Chris Powell just said. Number one, I won't hold my breath to it, and number two, if they do it, then where is the income going to come from? Because I mean, government getting rid of taxes altogether. I've not found a state yet where there's no taxes.
I don't like taxes at all, but I'm fine with a sales tax. Just leave me alone. As long as you're not beating down my door, I don't care what you do.
Actually, that is a good question for you, Chris. What do you say about that? Because that's on my support too. Is totally getting rid of the income tax and just having sales tax.
Well, I don't know that we're going to be in a position to be able to attempt to do that at any point in the near future. But obviously, the more you can have taxes where the individual has control over whether they pay them or not, the better off you're going to be. So, I would certainly support moves in that direction. An income tax, in my view, you either have an income or you're dependent on somebody who does. So to me, it's like a tax on existing, and I don't think that's right. Like I said, the current political climate in our state is not very favorable for advancing on that. But yes, just philosophically speaking, I am much more in favor of a tax where you can control whether you pay it, as opposed to one where you can't.
Yeah, we need more libertarians in the legislation, especially to control our spending, because that seems to be our huge problem right now. Our current people in office keep on talking about trying to raise taxes or get new taxes and stuff like that. And I say we don't have an income problem. We have a spending problem. We're spending way too much money on stupid stuff like the roads to nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a lot of spending that we can address, both in waste and in corporate welfare and things like that. We've got $450 million worth of incentives before the Incentive Evaluation Commission. When you can't fund your core services, it sounds like to me those are some luxuries that you can cut.
Yeah, most definitely. In fact, I saw a list not too long ago. In fact, it was posted by a freedom advocate in Oklahoma about wasteful spending in Oklahoma, and I mean it just floored me, especially when that list was put out back when I was like, oh, Oklahoma, there's nothing wrong with us, we're which I was rudely woken up by many of these people, that we do have a very serious problem. I mean, we're not the worst state. In fact, on that list of freedom, New York still remains the worst state on that list. Mm-hmm. When it comes to spending and taxes and all that stuff. But with us dropping in that list, I often wonder, are we trying to compete to be the worst state? We should be moving up, not the other way around.
Well, it's certainly the case that we had the largest tax increase in history passed this past legislative session, and we've had this happened at the same time that the health department lost $30 million and required an emergency appropriation back about a year ago in a special session, and then later we discover, they had it all along. They just, I guess they left that wallet in their other pants or something. But we do have these issues here. We are moving in the wrong direction. The current leadership that we have has been part of that, and the alternative that a lot of people see in the other establishment party are the people who were so bad about that stuff that we went to the guys we got now. So I don't know why anybody would choose either of those two establishment parties when there's another option.
Man,
I can tell you why. Is because they keep the blinders on the voters. And I'm not, as a libertarian, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. It's a the bait and switch here. They tell it's, what do they call it? I want to say hallucination, but it's where they're showing people one thing, but they're doing something else. Okay, they're telling everybody that everything's okay, and they're going by the uninformed voter, saying, "Oh, everything's okay," but over here they're really working behind the scenes to destroy everything, or trying to save it, and they're just making it worse.
Well, yeah, it's that's sort of what they do, and as much as I am critical of both establishment parties, I know a lot of people within those parties, some of these elected officials, and they really want to do a good job. They really want to make things work well, but part of what they're trying to do is they're trying to use this power that they have to make it so, and that's just not how life operates. I mean, people have it's about individuals. You have to empower individuals to run their own lives so that they can, so that each of us feels empowered to solve problems as they come up. Otherwise, if you tell people, no, you can't do it, you don't need to do it yourself, you need to rely on government, then what you have is a bunch of people who are standing around waiting for somebody else to fix it. And the people who are coming to fix it are not the people who understand the problem or know what to do about it. It's a bunch of politicians who the only thing they know how to do is get reelected. So, we kind of have to change the whole mindset towards not only do we need to empower ourselves as individuals, but we need to be jealous of that in the face of government and in the face of politicians, and start taking it back as much as we can, as quickly as we can.
Yeah, and here's one of the things I'm seeing. Okay, look, our nation is in debt. All of our states are in debt. I mean, we're in debt over our heads. We can't even handle the debt anymore. So what is the politicians doing? And me and Oklahoma Tomcats talked about this. They're just throwing Band-Aids at it right now. Just trying to make it over the next hill. Just trying to make it over the next hill. But eventually that hill's going to turn into a cliff. That's why they're raising taxes. That's why they're trying to get more money. That's why they're trying to do that, because they know that this beast, they're trying to keep the beast in the cage, and there ain't going to be no getting out of it.
Eventually, if you debase a currency enough, eventually it collapses. Are we close to that now, or do we have a long way to go? I mean, that's hard to say. But we haven't had a balanced budget since nationally since 1958. We have added to the federal debt every year since then. So eventually, just like, as an individual, if you spend more than you make long enough, it catches up to you. Same thing with the country. So at some point, we've got to turn that around.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if we're too late to turn it around because, in fact, somebody was asking on one of the groups I'm on, do we think that Trump will be reelected? I'm like, well, it's going to depend on if that's going to catch up to us because, I mean, right now, this is one of the things. I say right now the economy is really an illusion. It's mainly what's keeping it going. Mainly what's keeping it going is the fact people think they're doing, that everything is going good, so they're willing to spend the money, which will keep it going. But, eventually that, is going to collapse. I'd hate to be the person in, either president or governor or, when, that does catch up. And that's really, it's really Russian roulette.
It's as a candidate for governor, there's not a whole lot I can do about that. But, I certainly agree that it's a structurally unsound way to run a nation, to continually run debt every single year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, like one of the things, well, there as a governor, there's a few things that you might be able to do. Like Governor Perry, while we don't like a lot of things that Governor Perry did, he did recall our gold, the state gold back from Fort Knox, and they put it in, and they've got it in Texas. There's things that you can do, to protect your state, because eventually this Fed stuff is going to collapse.
Well, we could look into that, but I think that may have had a little bit to do with the fact that Texas joined having been its own nation. There's a lot of funny things about Texas because of that. But yeah, I mean, if there are steps that can be taken, we can certainly try to take them. But really, what we need is a change nationally with something that I think would go a long way to do that would be a lot more libertarians active and prominent nationally and getting into some of these federal offices. Like if Gary Johnson can get elected in New Mexico to the United States Senate, obviously that gives us a voice in the upper body of the Congress that could help change some things.
Yeah, we definitely need people to get into that federal level to help us out, because, I mean, while you can do, implement things, certain things there locally, unfortunately, at the national level, when the economy collapses, it's going to hurt us too. And even though, like you said, there's very little you can do, unfortunately, you're going to be in the crossfires because, it's sad. A lot of people don't understand the different levels of the government and what powers each level has, And just like, the president, right? Like I said, I feel that we're really too late to actually stop anything from happening. We can slow it down. We can do stuff like that. But unfortunately, even if we had a president in office, I mean, think about it. Really, a president in office that would get the debt under control and spending under control, well, actually, in the short term, a lot of people may end up harmed by it. In the long term,
they'll probably end up like JFK.
Well, we got about 4 minutes left, Chris Powell. How about go ahead and plugging in your website and how people can help out physically and financially?
Well, it's powellforgovernor.com, and we do have a section on there for donations. Everything that we can get in to help support what we're trying to do with this campaign, every dollar is going to help. The more that we get now, this is a crucial time. That's very important. I would encourage anybody listening who wants more liberty for the state of Oklahoma to find a way to give even a little bit. It doesn't have to be the $2,700 max donation. It can be. We'd certainly be happy to have that, but $27 is great too. Whatever fits your budget is very useful. We're also working on our grassroots efforts. If you can find us on Facebook, Chris Powell for Governor, there's a group attached to that that we're trying to build our volunteer grassroots organization around, and we're working on getting that in place. And, of course, if you can tell your friends and neighbors about this other option that they have that is for the individual and not the political power, this Chris Powell guy, that would certainly be very helpful as well. So any of that would be great, and if you can do all of it, that's even better.
All right, that's Chris Powell. I really encourage you guys to check him out and support his campaign. We need more freedom here in Oklahoma. And to find out more about our show, you go ptat.show, and you can also find us on both Stitcher and Spreaker. Also, if you go to YouTube, the Oklahoma Tomcat, you'll find our podcast there too. You all have a great day. Thank you so much, Chris Powell, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me on, fellas.